Hello. Hello. Okay. Uh, it's acting like it wasn't recording, but should be recording. Okay. I tried to record a different topic video and it went on too long and the program didn't cooperate. So we'll see if this one will post. Maybe I'm going to talk a little bit about mostly useful tips for beginners again. Um, I wanted to complain briefly. Last time I complained about eBay. I also had a complaint about Amazon. Like you buy something and they don't do price matching. So like a week later, it's gone down, not maybe not a lot of money, $8 or something, but still any place else that offers a 30-day return, you would be able to just get that adjusted and they won't do it. So if you've already taken the thing to the guitar store, you can't order it again and swap it out and get the money back. They also tend to deliver stuff later in the day than I would like. So by the time I, get around to getting the stuff in and I want to call guitar stores or something and find out if it's the right product or if it's this or that, they're already all gone home for the day or whatever. It's like nobody's on my timetable. It's kind of annoying. But I don't want to talk too much about the other thing, but there's some overlap. I was trying to say if there's a new guitar player, you don't always know what to look for with a guitar, so that will be part of what we can cover here. Scrolling. Okay, so somebody had actually posted this on somebody else's video, and so I'm reading this. It's just very small to read. Advice for buying used guitars. Okay, so when you're buying a used guitar, there's a couple of categories, right? Like there's the eBay or even Guitar Center where it's kind of sight unseen, and you have, maybe on Guitar Center you're lucky if you have more than one picture to even go from. eBay you'll usually maybe have 6 or 8, but then you still don't know if it's actually going to play when you plug it in. And the Guitar Center can be kind of frustrating. I'm not going to talk about every single site, individually. I'm just making generalizations. But if it just says, plays good condition or excellent condition or whatever, and there's a photo, you're kind of at their mercy. The bigger issue for me with Guitar Center tends to be the UPS shipping damage things. I think I talked about this already previously. But so before but at least there, you have the 45 days or whatever to take it back. So if it's significantly mangled, they'll take it back. And if it's slightly mangled, they'll give you maybe a little bit of money off your shipping or your price. So anyway, this one says advice for buying used. Do your research. 1, does it look good? Check for nicks, chips, etc. Again, if you're holding it in person, it's a little easier to do this than if you're looking at photos because they might not include all the damage in the photos. 2, is it legit? Unoriginal parts cause a lower price. That goes both ways, though, because if you're buying it intentionally for a lower price, or if you should be getting a lower price because they're pulling a fast one and slipping in, inferior parts. Most of the guitars you're going to get used are going to be used. So there's that. Some of the guitars you're going to get used will be modified or upgraded. So that will actually cause a higher price typically, or they'll try to get a higher price. Depending on how well the modification was done, how good the original instrument was done, the condition of the instrument, all these factors. As I was saying, before, it kind of depends on who you're buying it from. If it's the kid down the block and he has to make a car payment, so he just wants to dump his guitar, I guess it's going to depend on how good of a friend he is, how honest he's going to be about the quality and the condition and all that. So if you're kind of flying blind, maybe before you hand over the cash, if you can at least plug it in. Not always possible, again, if you're buying it off eBay, or take it to a reputable guitar store where they can look it over before you fork over the cash. What they may or may not want to give an appraisal because they might not want to get in the middle of the deal. So you almost have to kind of take it as if you were trying to sell it to the guitar store or to a pawn shop. And then he goes, "Oh, I'll give you $20 for it." And then you can kind of calculate in your head how much is fair, I guess. That's an extra step. Again, if you're buying it from a random person, you might not be able to do that first because, if it's the recycler or Facebook fines or whatever, where you're just going to somebody's house and they're handing you a thing and, they don't have an amplifier, you didn't think to bring an amplifier, obviously we're talking more about electric guitars and acoustic guitars. An acoustic guitar, many of the same rules apply, but obviously you'll be able to know if an acoustic guitar plays without needing electricity. So anyway, 3, check neck. Is the truss rod straight? Look from the side. And then look from the bottom and top for twists, etc. 4, check frets. Must not have dents under strings, and also along the side of the neck. If it feels really sharp along here, some will feel more sharp than others. And you might be hypersensitive to, because you don't typically play the guitar just sliding along the frets there anyway. I mean, I had a guitar that had not very nice frets for a long time, and it never actually bothered me until I decided I should just have this done. And that'll cost $100, and you hope they're not too lazy when they do it. 5, test the pickups. Again, if you can plug it in, you should plug it in. Whether or not those pickups will sound good may or may not factor into the price. Again, that starts to get subjective because if they're the stock pickups that come in any guitar that's under $500 range, they're probably not top of the line pickups unless it's been modified again. So if you're buying it for that price range and then plan to upgrade it yourself, then I guess you're not as worried about how the pickups sound. Just so that they do work, then the wiring is all correct. 6, check hardware, saddles, tuners. Again, if you're kind of a novice, you might not know what to kind of look for there. You want to make sure things are aligned correctly. Other than that, again, somebody at a guitar store might be able to tell you a better answer than your own eyeballs, unfortunately. 7, check electronics. Well, that's basically the same thing as pickups. Whether all the knobs work or not, 8, check neck pocket fit. I'm not positive that applies as much to the non-bolt-on necks. I think if you have a glue neck and it's not attached, then you're just going to know that the guitar's broken. Whereas with a bolt-on, it might be more of an adjustment than a fix, if that's kind of a distinction there. I'm not as familiar with other models of guitar. 9, check for hairline cracks, especially at the ends of the necks. And 10, check for enjoyment. So there you go. You should. Well, that's not a total joke. The action of the guitar, how high the strings are, how hard they are to press down, how easy it is to play. Other things, like if there's something sharp that's kind of sticking out of the bridge or something that you're catching yourself on. Again, the fretwork itself, they didn't mention the tuning pegs or any of that kind of thing. Again, if you're just starting out, you might not know what tuning is supposed to sound like, but you should be able to hear if it's going flat pretty soon after, you've strummed it a few times. Does it already start to sound bad, even if you don't even know how to, form a proper chord? I was watching a video and the guy was saying something about how he was kind of OCD, and I think he was referring more to kind of his equipment than performing so much. That kind of got me onto a tangent, though, where I was thinking where, all musicians or artists even need to be OCD to a point, or else you'd never practice and get good. You'd just play a thing once and think it was amazing and think you were amazing and go on to the next thing, right? Um, I was kind of trying to think about like guys like Randy Rhoads and Eddie Van Halen who are very, perfectionist, or Steve Vai maybe. How much of that is muscle memory, how much of that is talent, how much of that is dedication, though, too. Um, but that led me more into I didn't want to dwell on the other issue. I was kind of thinking about how, like, even just learning how to play a lick versus having to play that same lick for the next, 30 years or whatever if you write a hit, It's kind of a subject for another video that I'll have to come back to oh yeah, I'll definitely not as much tips for beginners as much as um, tips for playing in a group again, kind of topic. So I definitely want to talk more about that in the next video.